This month, German food markets.
Look at this. This is amazing. You can get anything you want here at this market. And it's the middle of winter. Come on, let's take a tour and see what else there is.
And from Bavaria, a very funny story.
When is a comedian not a comedian? And I know that sounds like the beginning of a joke, but stay tuned as I explain why this is deadly serious to a German.
And also today, German citizenship. You might have to wait up to 6 months to receive that vital piece of paper. Hello, I'm Barry Redfern. Welcome to the Expat show, which is actually a radio show with cameras. So not a real TV show, but you get some pictures as well. It's a bonus. And we're especially for expats or the English speakers who've moved to Germany. Joining us also in the studio today is Scott Hazlitt. Hi. It would help if I opened your microphone.
It would be
Scott.
good, yeah. Hi, Barry.
Because we would like to hear more of you in the programme.
That'd be good, yeah.
This programme, although it goes out live, it's recorded and we work as for live. So,
viewed by millions.
Absolutely, yes. So we have to get it right.
Right.
Also today, joining us in the studio is Alicia Banfield.
Hello, and I'm bringing you the quirkier side of food by scouring the news today, namely Deutsche Welle. That's my victim today.
Thank you, Alicia. And now, German citizenship. As Brexit looms ever closer, the number of applications for citizenship has increased dramatically. My application only took a few days, but the situation is very different now, as John Goodyear explained to me earlier on via a Skype call.
For others, though, Barry, I think the process is somewhat more lengthy in terms of time. So take my good self, for instance. I've submitted all of the documents to apply for German nationality, or more specifically for dual nationality. And I was told by the gentleman in the local Einbürgerungsamt, so the office that's responsible for naturalizing citizens, that it would take anything up to 9 months to get citizenship. That was back in September. So if my maths is right, it's going to be around about June. So post-Brexit, if everything is still going to go according to timetable, that I would get that document to say that I'm now a German, possibly no longer a British citizen.
What about this period? You know, because once Brexit's happened, if it happens, then you know there's a wait. Might they change their minds?
This is a good question. I think one of the things that this deal that Theresa May put on the table that was so resoundingly rejected in Parliament was to ensure citizens' rights during this transition period, so that there would be this time between leaving the European Union, let's say, on paper, but actually really leaving it after the transition period kicks in and that time elapses. So the fact that this deal has been voted down means that people's situations have become even unclearer, in the sense that we don't actually know what Brexit we're going to get, and whether we're going to crash out, which leaves a lot of people with great uncertainty, or whether there is going to be some sort of deal, some sort of transition, and a period of time after Brexit where there's going to be an adjustment phase for those people on the continent of Europe, including myself, including many others, knowing that they might still be eligible in this transitional phase for dual nationality, or not, as the case may be.
You're sitting in your office in the University of Birmingham. Can I ask you?
Behind me as well, Barry. Plenty of books.
What about universities? Do academics fear that they might lose some money, might lose funding for some of their projects?
The European Union was very much understood in its initial days as a organisation, not just bringing together coal and steel, but actually also bringing the academic community together to have this cooperation, to create a sense of European identity, which is very much at the beating heart of places like Germany and France, But the British never really subscribed to it as much. But they do benefit, of course, from these great EU projects which bring together academics and scientists from a geographical space that is relatively close. So I've done work with Australia and know how difficult it is to just do business, chiefly because of the time factor, the time zones. And to say all of a sudden that, we're going to have this great collaboration with Australia, you've got to remember that if you invest in something like that, you've got to be wary that just-in-time processes are not going to be possible, surely because of time differences, even though the argument might not necessarily be a strong one, but I think it is a very valid one at least.
John, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
That was John Goodyear talking to me earlier on about citizenship and the extended waiting list to get that vital piece of paper. Alicia, are you a German citizen now?
No, however, I am married to a Brit who is in the same process, just like John. But we've been here so long, and because of how he's employed, he's permanently employed, nearly a decade and a half now. So for him, actually, I think he didn't take it as seriously as he should, as early as he should have. But it's well on the way, and he'll be in good time. But going back to what John was saying about, not knowing what kind of Brexit they'll have and institutions, there's another aspect of it where individuals are also preparing themselves for another aspect of the uncertainty of Brexit, and that is food preparation. There are people stockpiling food. They even have a name for themselves, some of them. They call themselves the preppers. Not peppers, the preppers, as in being prepared. Some of them have got Facebook groups, and they're stockpiling all kinds of food.
They're stockpiling this in Germany or in Britain?
No, in Britain. In Britain, individuals, and it's not, you kind of have this visual image of, just the real lug nuts who are doing this. But across the whole education spectrum and socioeconomic spectrum, there's so much uncertainty about food and medication. So there are people who have chronic illnesses like allergies or asthma. They're going to their doctors asking for extra prescriptions because they're not sure, just in case. They're not sure if they'll be able to get medication if everything crashes out. And they're stockpiling, tin foods and whatever they can stockpile. Yeah.
What surprises me is that they are laying on extra ferries to bring all these vital supplies in. Mm-hmm. How many medical supplies do they expect to bring in?
Well, I don't know. I think at this stage they're thinking, as many as possible, because there are these doomsday visions in case the worst happens, ferries being stuck at ports and trucks being stuck on the highways.
But I mean, talking about medical supplies, I mean, they must need an awful lot of medical supplies from the continent. Doesn't Britain actually make any?
That is a very good question.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to know if they make them locally or what other territories they get medications from.
It sounds like there are going to be hundreds of lorries carrying medicines.
The thing is, for me, is there a real basis for this fear, or is it just right? Somebody got a hold of this and said, "Oh, I think I heard from my brother-in-law's sister." That this and this is...
But this is the government, isn't it? The British government laying on ferries to transport hundreds of trucks to bring in essential supplies.
And it doesn't really spike your confidence if their government agencies doing it. If it is private people doing it, you can say, okay, maybe they're a little survivalists. Because, you have your survivalist people out there. Yeah. But if it's your government doing it, it kind of sends off alarms of no confidence in your head.
That's right.
I don't know how many people out there were around or remember the Y2K. Remember when we were going from 1999?
The world was going to collapse.
The world was going to come to
And
an
it didn't.
end. And people were stockpiling, and all these religious cults were going, will be taken up, and all kinds, and nothing happened. But it was a slightly different scenario. That it is not understanding, as I said back then, that the grass doesn't know that it's 2000.
Right.
Okay, the calendar we use now was invented by man. Trees, grass, and clouds don't know. But this, we've got now a man-made situation.
Yeah.
So how will it be solved by those same men and women who created the situation? Yeah. Or if it'll all be hysteria for little or nothing.
If we backtrack, many years ago, there was an emergency in Berlin.
What was that?
But after the war, when the blockade that the Russians put up,
they couldn't get supplies into Berlin.
right? So they had all the Rosinenbomber.
And the aircraft came in, military aircraft, and dropped supplies into Berlin, and it kept going.
Yeah. Because it'll be in the government's interest to make sure, even if it comes down to the wire, like 2 minutes before midnight, they tend to pull something out of the hat very quickly when they're under the gun.
There's always a way of doing things.
Yeah. Things that they couldn't agree on, all of a sudden at 2 minutes before midnight, they come up with an agreement. So hopefully in this case, it'll be honestly hysteria for nothing.
Yeah.
That is the hope. Because those same extremists who are stockpiling, some of them are actually predicting, there'll be looting in the streets and rioting when people can't eat, which I think might be a little extreme. I really do.
Well, I just want to drop in a little promo to say what's coming up. Of course, we've got this fabulous little feature coming up later on about food.
Right.
When Scott visits a German food market.
Which is almost like rubbing salt in the wound, talking on one hand about what it could be like, and then showing this absolutely plethora and abundance.
Food in abundance, that's right.
So, I mean, you're a food enthusiast, aren't you?
I certainly am. My waistline does not lie.
Basically, you're a slow food
That's right.
enthusiast. That doesn't mean you're slow. It means that you enjoy cooking it in
That's
a
right.
slow
Regional
way.
food from reliable producers. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Slow foods. Okay.
That's right.
And so we'll look forward to seeing Scott's report a little bit later. But first, we've another story from Andrew Bossum. Now, every month, Andrew sends us a report from his own area, Bavaria. Sometimes it's to do with Bavaria, sometimes it's not. And today, there's something a little bit funny about it.
The other day I was reading the local paper and I got to the readers' letters. Now, I'm sure this isn't a uniquely German phenomenon, but I'm always amused to see just what it is that gets people angry enough to write to the paper. A few days previously, the paper had printed a story about the environmental damage apparently being caused by the overpopulation of deer and so on. And yeah, this is the kind of thing that we country folk worry about. This annoyed somebody so much that they took the trouble to write an actual letter, saying that they'd never heard of a sow-on. What kind of animal is that? And in what way is it damaging the countryside? Now, I've come across this attitude in other cultures as well, but it seems to me that Germans have elevated it to a fine art. The art of pointless precision. Whatever you say or write, if you say it or show it to a group of Germans, one of them is going to quibble with something. And it is just amazing what they find to quibble about. For instance, we have a local celebrity by the name of Urban Priol. Now, he sometimes appears on TV making jokes about politicians, and I once made the mistake of describing him as a comedian. The silent horror in the room as the atmosphere suddenly cooled to the temperature of liquid helium told me just what a mistake that was. Urban Priol, I have been reliably informed, is not a comedian, he is a cabaretist. And I deeply apologise for any offence I may have caused. Sometimes this need for terminological exactitude is famously reflected in the language. For example, if you want to catch a bus, you don't wait for it at a bus stop, because what does that phrase even mean? It sounds like it should be a bus-proof barrier. No. It's called a bus stopping place. There, see? Much clearer. But it goes deeper than that. My phone is not powered by a battery. I mean, imagine that. I would have to buy a new battery nearly every single day. Just think of the expense, not to mention the damage to the environment. No, my phone is powered by an accumulator. My introduction to this came with an ambulance. And for the benefit of any Germans out there, I don't mean that it was literally delivered by ambulance. I mean that the story I am about to tell involves an ambulance. So an ambulance draws up to transport somebody with mobility problems somewhere else. I mean, it's not even an emergency. And one of my colleagues says, "Oh, just look at that ambulance. Ancient. It must be at least 10 years old. That's disgraceful." And I say, "Well, it runs. Surely that's the main thing." And she says, "Oh, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Ambulances don't run. They don't have legs. They have wheels." At which point another German colleague chimes in to say, "Oh, no, he's right. I mean, we do talk about motors running in a metaphorical sense, and the ambulance is powered by a motor, therefore, by extension, the ambulance can be..." That was the start of a 15-minute argument. I really should have got out when I could, but now I'm stuck living in the kind of society where if you casually mention that you were born in 70, somebody is bound to say, "What do you mean, 1870? Although, to be fair, it does sometimes feel like that.
Oh,
pointless precision. That's a good
pointless
way of
precision.
It.
Yeah.
Yes, the Germans do take several things very exactly.
Yeah. I say that is a classic demonstration of having bugger all to do.
Right.
So that your mind sits down and dwells on pointless minutia. If you have so much time on your hand to quibble about little stuff like a car running, if your life is so empty of meaning that you're going to quibble, that you're going to spend good energy quibbling about little stuff like that, I say you need to rethink the purpose and function of your life when you wake up in the morning, because no person's life should be that empty. I'm sorry.
Scott, what's your take on...
I get stuck up in this stuff once in a while. I mean, I'm a linguist, right? I'm a translator, so I have to take things pretty exactly. But things happen to me like a wild rabbit that's running around outside is not a rabbit. It's a hare, right? In the German. So if I say, "Oh, I saw a rabbit outside," I always say, "No, it wasn't a rabbit. It was a hare."
But I thought those,
or whatever
at a level of a species, I thought that there were two different species.
Exactly. Or did I say I have cats?
They have different tails.
But you have a male cat and a female cat, and you can't call a male cat a cat.
You have to be precise.
It's a Kater. It's not a Katze.
It's not
and
a
I say,
Katze.
"Ich hab zwei Katzen," and then they think I have two female cats, and I say, "No, one's a male." You didn't say that though, and so I get stuck in these things because in English we have these what do you call it? This general term that covers everything, and Germans don't do it that way.
But the thing is, with language, you have to recognize that there's such a thing as idiom.
Of course.
Idiots? So even not idiots who don't understand idiom.
Right.
Not that I'm insulting anyone out there, but
no, of course, German language is just different.
In idiom, the whole, you can almost say good thing about idiom is that it allows a certain leeway not to be literal,
right? But
the understanding is gleaned. So when you start challenging in theory,
yes,
but when you're going to then start expending energy challenging idiom at a word for word level, then your life is really going to spiral down into a black hole of wasted time. Seriously.
Yeah, but
pick your arguments. Bottom line, pick your arguments, people. Pick your arguments.
Well, that is, yeah, but I mean, you do get used to it because the German language is obviously, it has
Very
its
precise.
own characteristics.
Yeah,
and I don't want to criticize anybody because if you've grown up here, then you're not trying to be pedantic. That's just the way it is. So because we're foreigners, they point out to us, it's not called a rabbit, it's a hare. Or it's not a cat, it's a male cat or a female cat. Things like that. So it's okay. I mean, they're right, it's their language, right?
Yeah.
But I think they kind of sometimes they shake their heads and go, foreigners,
Yeah, exactly.
But you're not a foreigner now.
Not
You're not.
Because
and in
you've
the
got
instant when I
citizenship.
got I was recently at the official celebration
Yeah.
with the Bürgermeister.
Brilliant.
Yeah, free food.
And did you get a free book?
I did not get anything.
Oh,
no
I got-
certificate. I didn't even get my name mentioned.
Oh,
they don't do it that way.
I was given a free book about the region, and a little song book.
a songbook.
That was when there was the early days when they cared about you becoming.
Not that long ago.
Well, early days, literally early days ago,
Yeah.
when they actually cared
Right.
about you becoming. Now it's just like, get them in,
Oh,
get them
not
done.
not another Brit.
Yeah, get them in.
Yeah,
get 'em
well,
or
done.
American.
But because I guess not all cities do what they did for you, or they have a celebration like in Oldenburg. Some places they just say, "There you are." That you say your oath and say you're going to support the German Constitution, blah blah, and that's it. There isn't anything else.
All right.
So,
we had champagne and red carpet and
Oh, excellent.
champagne.
no, we didn't.
Oh, we did. We did have. I guess we
I
had
just threw it in
Prosecco.
to see.
There'll be people now rushing to become
Can I have your
citizens
autograph? Yeah.
from Westerstede.
No, but it was a nice celebration. It was. But that's the only thing that I thought was. There's a big picture in the local paper and everything, and people said, "I saw your picture up there in the corner among the 35 or 40 people." But the only thing I would have wished that they would have done otherwise is they would have read off everybody's name. Because there was 3 people that got up there and told about their story, how they came to Germany. Everything was fine. One guy was Irish. Very nice, they prepared their speeches well and everything. And the Bürgermeister, he didn't say inane things. He said a very nice speech. They had this kid who could play the xylophone or the marimba phone or whatever you call it. And he was he got the maximum points in Jugendmusiziert. So this guy is a real talent.
And did you have music as well?
That was,
They
that
had was it.
And then we had to sing, of course, the German national anthem.
Right.
So, and then we had a school choir accompanied us because I realized I had never sung the German national anthem all the way through.
Right.
Here's a question.
Yep.
Do you feel differently? Do you see yourself differently now that you're German?
Jawohl. No, I don't. I
Okay,
don't.
he does.
I've been here too long.
Right. Well, as the song goes, food, glorious food, and none more so than in a German food market. Right. The chances are, if you live in Germany, you've visited one, probably many times. But what makes it so special? Well, Scott's been out to give us his own personal taste of what's on offer.
German food markets have always fascinated me. This is amazing. You can get anything you want here at this market, and it's the middle of winter. Come on, let's take a tour and see what else there is. Forget British and American markets. Just like in France and Italy, food here is sold with real passion. Look at this. I can't believe it. They even have pine nuts here. I've never seen this at a market before. I have no idea what you would use it for if you're cooking, but if you want it, you got it. And it's not just limited to regional products. In any German market, you'll find a huge range of food. Olives from the Mediterranean, stuffed peppers, everything you want, and more is here. Of course, one of the most popular dishes that Germans like to eat is kale in winter. Look at this huge choice, huge selection of wonderful kale, packed or fresh. Germans love their bread, and look at this queue. It's amazing. This really says something about German bread. Everyone knows Kennedy's famous saying, "Ich bin ein Berliner." Well, they've got him here. And of course, no German market is complete without fish. And what a selection we have here. We've got some wonderful salmon, cod. Most of it's from the North Sea. And in the German custom, the place where this fish has been caught is always indicated on the labels. For example, the North Atlantic. I don't know about you, but I love cheese. You have quite a wide selection here. Excellent. Not only do they have cheese, they also have a wide selection of nuts. I like nuts a lot too. But I find the enormous selection of fresh food just one aspect. When you go to a German market, you greet it like an old friend. It's a social occasion.
We go to the market because we like to buy fresh food from regional
Producers?
Yes.
Great.
Fresh producers, bio market, and nice legumes and legumes is Französisch.
Okay, yeah.
It's great. It's yes.
I think the atmosphere is very nice, and you can drink a coffee or a cappuccino or something.
And after a long morning of shopping at the German market at freezing temperatures, it's 6 degrees, there's just one thing left for me to do is drink this coffee.
Scott Hazlitt reporting
That's right.
on the wonderful food you can get. Scott, in your experience of food markets, do you think they're all like that?
No, I think we have an exceptionally good one here in Oldenburg. We have several, as a matter of fact. It all depends on where you are.
But if you're in a big city, you're going to say, yeah.
Right, the largest city, Stuttgart, has 2. I lived there for several years. It's just amazing. And a lot of times what we didn't see here because it's winter is the cut flowers.
Oh.
That's something that's not a food aspect, but that's something that's all at these markets, the plants and the flowers. It just makes everything green and beautiful.
What I like about the food markets here is that it actually also reflects the changing of the seasons.
Yeah.
Because like you said, in spring, then you get the cut flowers, you get something else. It's always the staples of all of this, great fruit, vegetables, bread, cheese. But then in between there's also that seasonal aspect of it.
Well, that market is in northern Germany and not too far from the coast. So we saw a lot of fish there.
Yes, we did.
But would that be typical of, say, a market down in Bavaria?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Like I say, every city, every halfway large town has some kind of a market.
But what about fish?
Well, they probably wouldn't get that much. There wouldn't be we have 3 or 4 fish stands here in Oldenburg. I think they probably just have 1.
So what would the emphasis be in Bavaria?
Oh, what would it be? Oh, Weisswurst? I don't sausages and things like that.
Wurst,
yeah, regional vegetables.
So you do get the regional varieties.
Definitely.
Within the market.
I mean, there's always the big stand like we saw that offers everything, but the local producers, they only have locally grown things, so that limits their selection.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, there we are. That was one of in fact, the first report we've actually done on this show as we've started going more towards picture making and video making. We hope you like Scott's report. We hope to have a lot more in the future.
Yes.
Coming up next month, we'll have a special report on the Globe Theatre in Oldenburg, which was specially built for the British forces. So until next time, it's goodbye from all of us.